Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast and a game between Mouse Hasu versus MTW Dimaga here on GSL Dual Site. Hasu spawning as the red Protoss player on the left side of the map, meanwhile Dimaga spawning as the blue Zerg on the right. So Zerg versus Protoss, and we'll see what goes down here. Now, Dual Site, one of those maps where not many Zerg players really like it. The natural expansion is fairly close, but there are two entrances in that you really have to be aware of, and then there's all important third base for the Zerg, which is very, very far away. It also has a lot of ways to get in. There is this very wide entrance here and a very wide entrance here as well. Just very hard for a Zerg to get up into three bases. Now, we'll see what these players are going to go for and how they're going to try to open up and try to respond and play against each other. This is game 2 in the series. Game 1 is up on Machinima Realm. If you guys are watching or following me daily, you will see that game 1 is currently the featured video on my channel. So you guys can go ahead and keep track of that, as Hasu now going to just take a look around and see what exactly is going on the inside of this base. Now it looks, or so far it appears, that Dimaga has not really tipped his hand yet. He may be going for a spawning pool or a hatchery. Still really need to wait and see what's going to go down. I believe it is going to be a spawning pool, as the probe has snuck back down, checked that there is not a hatchery, and it is going to be a pool hatch most likely for an opening. The benefit of that pool hatch opening, as I've said multiple times, is that the probe is really not going to be able to get that much harassment in. The probe can stick around here, try to do a little bit, but he's not really going to be able to do all too much. He's just going to sit there, try to delay it, but it is going to at least force Dimaga to train up a couple of Zerglings in order to push this one probe away, as we are going into a gateway and then most likely a cybernetics core right here. The timing on the cybernetics core will be so that it is after this pylon. Hasu, however, is currently supply blocked, or no, his timing is absolutely perfect, not supply blocked, as we now see a drone being forced to take down this pylon here, as the Zerglings are not quite in play as of yet. The drone really wants to grow up and be a hatchery, but it looks like this probe has something to say about it, as the probe once again comes back in for a little bit more harassment and delay once again. It looks like the hatchery was about to be completed a couple times, and there it goes. The Zerglings finally coming down the ramp, as the probe wants to get the heck back home and get a little bit, or perhaps do a little bit more mining. A zealot will be able to get in position in just a moment. It looks like the Zerglings are now looking for those all-important proxy pylons, making sure there is no proxy Stargate or any proxy pylons that he can easily take care of. The zealot's going to sit off over here. I believe this one probe, going to be able to slip by once more and do a little bit more scouting once again. Zerglings do have control of the two Xel'Naga towers in the center. Very, very strong and very important for a Zerg player to have map sight, map control, to make sure that they do produce units at just the right time. Now, as the game transitions into, I guess, the early game, we're going to see perhaps a little bit more tech come in. Hasu still has not gotten that all-important third building yet. He hasn't shown any additional gateways. He does have a decent number of units, now going to go up to 3 units here. But he hasn't tipped his hand with gateways or gateways, Twilight Councils, or Stargates. So I'm really curious as to how Hasu is going to try to counteract this. We can see that Dimaga is going for that metabolic boost as well, and now training up that all-important third queen, as he already has 1 queen at each hatchery. He wants to make sure to get a very strong creep highway setup, as we now see a nexus coming in from Hasu. So zealots, sentries, stalkers, and a probe in position to just try to defend this nexus down over here. Those Zerglings are not going to be able to do very much. There are a couple of Zerglings now running down, but drones mainly being transferred, as Dimaga now starting to work on that creep highway, and it looks like he's going to be going for that third base. So Dimaga opting to go for a very early third base here on Dual Site. We'll see if this base does get punished, as Dual Site does generally work out well for standard 2-base play, as similar to Xel'Naga Caverns, as the Zergling now just continuing to put a little bit of pressure back on that probe, make sure he does not establish another nexus over here. Now, taking a look at the game still, we are going into additional gateways. Gateways are being warped in just multiple locations, so it's going to be very difficult to keep track of how many gateways he really has. So Dimaga not going to know that this is going to be a 4-gate. There are going to be a lot of roaches now being added as well. Roaches very important in order to fend off that attack. Zerglings just tend to melt away from sentries just because sentries have a decent range attack, and on top of that, all of those force fields are able to split them up, and now the Zergling just hiding back down over here once again. So no real engagement right now, a little bit more of a standoff. Dimaga perhaps assuming that there is going to be some sort of Void Ray and Void Ray Stargate play, opting to go for an Evolution Chamber. Very smart, as many of the times if you don't know what a Protoss is going, he's either going to come at you with Dark Templars or Phoenixes and Void Rays, and Spore Crawlers do handle both of those rather well, detecting those Dark Templars and also pushing back those Void Rays and those Phoenixes. More buildings still being added. Hasu doing a little bit of Sim City so far, making sure that no units are going to be able to run by at all. You can see that there is a Phoenix now hovering around the far corner. It looks like it is going to reveal itself that it is in fact a hallucination by getting in a couple quick shots onto that Overlord. Now doing a little bit of a flyby. Roaches not going to really be able to do much, as that Phoenix just wants to get more and more scouting information. It looks like it will get taken down. Down it goes, but really no real loss there. Roach Warren has been completed. No Glio reconstitution, as we are now teching into tier 2, so it will be a little bit of time before those roaches get that movement speed upgrade, as really this one Phoenix doing a really good job of just revealing the site on this Overlord here. The Stalker now coming down, actually trying to pick apart this Overlord. It looks like the Overlord will back off in just a moment, and Dimaga is going to be playing a little bit more in the dark. But Dimaga, with such a strong creep highway being spread across the map, really will know when his opponent is trying to do anything at any time. Now, taking a look at the army sizes, Zerg is much further ahead, 20 food ahead, with a lot larger of a mineral army, but there is a stronger gas presence coming in from Hasu, and that really has to do with the sheer number of sentries. So massive number of sentries, 7 sentries with constant hallucinations for scouting purposes. A lot of force fields could be used, and all we really need now is the robotics bay with Colossi. As soon as the sentries are able to block and corral many of those roaches and Zerglings together, the Colossi with their splash damage is able to easily eat through much of this Zerg ground force. Immortals, however, being added first, even though a robotics bay has been completed. A rather strange opening there. Perhaps we will get extended thermal lance range first, as we are also going into chrono boost. I believe the Phoenixes did spot a lot of roaches, and that's the reason why he wants to go for Immortals right now, but the Immortals really not going to benefit from that robotics bay. No available upgrades at all. Zerglings now simply just running past again once more. It looks like the Phoenix is just keeping track of that Roach army. Roach is moving ever so quickly on creep, and even faster with that Glio reconstitution, as we are also going into pathogen glands. The Zerg player just Dimaga wanting to get up to 200 food as quickly as possible, and it looks like he'll be able to do that, but Hasu has closed in on the food gap rather quickly. You can now see there's only a 2 food difference. Harvester count 69 to 59, so a definite economic advantage still for the Zerg, as he is now running off of 3 bases and soon will be running off of 4, while Hasu is running off of 2 bases, soon to be 3. Infestors are now being added to the army as well. Infestors do take a little bit of time to build. Spire should be able to start training up Corruptors in just a moment. And really, I would like to see Hasu clean up all of these creep tumors. You cannot give the Zerg player that much of an advantage in terms of speed and mobility. A lot of the units that Dimaga is currently using are all low range units. Zerglings, Roaches. Zerglings are obviously melee. Roaches have a range of 4, so it really matters for them to get to their targets quickly in order to attack, and that's exactly what this creep tumor and creep highway is doing. The Corruptors are now finally being added. We can see that the hatchery over here has just been completed by Dimaga, and both sides are a little bit too afraid to attack. Another Colossus is being added as well. It looks like we are going to be getting some pylons down over here, perhaps even some gateways here to prevent any sort of flank, or adding the gateways over here as well. We'll see. There's still a very wide entrance here for roaches to try to push through on this backdoor. And this map, because of its circular style, is almost like a yin-yang trying to go in for the proper flank here, as both sides will be trying to engage in the center portion in just a moment. It looks as though creep tumors are starting to be stopped. There is a gold expansion over here. There is still these expansions over here and here as well. So we'll see what's going to be coming down in just a moment, as the creep tumors and the Xel'Naga towers are currently being activated. So Hasu does have a decent amount of information. A Zealot is battling it out over here. Oh, very nicely positioning itself in between two mineral patches to make sure it cannot get flanked. And now we'll see what these units are going to be able to do. More creep tumors being stopped continually, but really that observer, perhaps even movement speed on the observer, would be very beneficial, as the observer seems to be lagging just a little bit behind the rest of the army. More gateways coming in from Hasu, and it looks like Hasu deciding to opt for being able to replace his army very quickly, as opposed to just having a large army. Meanwhile, you can see that Dimaga sitting at 200 over 200, or over 192 supply blocked right now, with a lot of corruptors as well. We'll see how he's going to handle this massive attack that will be coming in. Level 2 weapons upgrade for the Protoss, level 2 weapons upgrade for the Zerg as well, with the Zerg flyer attacks for those corruptors against those Colossus, trying to deal more and more damage. There are currently 3 Colossi, and we'll see what's going to be happening. A fourth one will be added in just a moment, and no real engagements so far. 400 resources lost into the 16-minute game, and now massive spine crawlers being added by Dimaga, the perfect mineral dump for Zerg, and now I think that Zerg is going to have an advantage with those infestors on the field as well. Pylon's going to get destroyed down over here. It looks as though there may be a bit of an engagement. Corruptors did not get that much damage off, as the force fields did come into play, but this Nexus was cancelled, I believe, and this one pylon will get destroyed. There it goes, as the Zerglings get cleaned up. So a lot of spine crawlers here. The spine crawlers have to be careful though. If they're off of creep tumors, they are going to start they are going to start to take some amount of damage. Was there an observer here? Yes, there is an observer hiding in with the rest of this group here. And we'll see what's going to happen as the stalkers blink in and take down so many of those infestors. Brilliant play by Hasu, as Hasu definitely taking an advantage there, and that is going to be very, very hard, a very hard hit there, as Dimaga constantly losing more units. Corruptors are trying to engage. Infestors need to get off a fungal growth. Is he going to be able to get it off? No, not able to, as the Colossus are being very smart. Stalkers continuing to blink in, and Hasu playing absolutely beautifully in catching his opponent off guard at just the right time. A large number of overlords are being shot down, and now it looks like we're going to try to have a flank here in just a moment. The production tab doesn't show anything new. We're currently sitting at 147 over 142. Dimaga is in trouble. He cannot replenish his forces at all, and with so many Colossus and Stalkers just moving around the map, this is going to be very difficult. All Dimaga can do is perhaps try to slow down his opponent. There are a lot of photon cannons here, so it will clean up many of those Zerglings, as the units are now trying to retreat back home, running past a lot of spine crawlers here. So the spine crawlers are dealing pretty much free damage, but the Zerglings and the roaches are going to be able to destroy many of the bases here. So this is going to be an important base versus the natural expansion for a trade here. But I believe the Stalkers and Stalkers are going to be able to more than clean up these roaches here, as the Stalkers are trying to regroup, and it looks like the roaches are just running further and further into trouble. The probes are now simply mineral pathing their way through, as the roaches will get taken down. And I believe there are reinforcements, but it may be too little, too late, as another hatchery trying to be established there. Stalkers taking a look at the army. Yes, Hasu at over a 10 or almost 10k army with a 50 food advantage. Meanwhile, there's only 7 roaches being trained, and another spire has to be rebuilt. The greater spire that was morphing in was taken down by those Stalkers, and with no corruptors for at least another a minute and a half perhaps, I believe these Colossi will pretty much go unanswered, and there's the GG. Well played. So Dimaga who had a light advantage going into the final battle, really lost it all after a really nice blink coming in from Hasu. The blink able to snipe down 5 to 6 of those infestors. I really accounted for those infestors to get off more fungal growths and deal more damage across the stalkers, the sentries, and the colossus. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for game 2 in this series between Dimaga and Hasu.